Alright, ladies and gents, this video is another continuation towards quadratics. So far, all we've done this chapter is find out different ways to solve a quadratic. The first way we talked about was graphing, and we did this by graphing the quadratic and see where to cross the x-axis. Okay. The second method was just taking the square root, straightforward. So we had some x being squared equals some number. So we did x equals plus or minus the square root of that number. That was the second way we talked about. The third way we just kind of got done with. Oh, we're not done. We'll keep doing this forever and ever. Where we did factoring. So we had x squared with plus some bx plus c equals 0. And then we split that into two sets of parentheses and set them equal to 0, and that was factoring. Now we're going to introduce something a little different. It's called completing the square. Okay, we're going to complete the square or use this method when we don't feel like graphing and when factoring is impossible. So just be patient with this method. It's a different way of looking at the equations. It will be a little tricky to look at first, but trust me, it will get better. Okay, so we have x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals 0. Now I want to find the values of x to make that statement true. So if we were to try and factor this right away, we will look for factors of 1 that add up to 6. Well, that's about the only factors of 1 are 1, and they don't add up to 6 in any way, shape, or form. So we're not going to do the factoring method. We're going to try and do this by completing the square. So to complete the square, the first thing you do is you want to get this number to the other side. So now we have x squared plus 6x equals negative 1. And now we're ready to go. We're going to take our b term and divide it by 2. We're going to take our b, divide by 2, so we're going to do 6 divided by 2 and square it. That's the completing the square part. Now we're going to add and subtract it in the same equation. So we're going to have, let's see here, x squared plus 6x. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So it's plus 9 minus 9 equals negative 1. Yeah, see how we didn't change the equation at all because we just added 9 and we took it right away. So we didn't change the equation, we just rewrote it differently. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of this negative 9 right here. So now we have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. We get 8. Now how did that help us? That helped us by making this extremely factorable. Now we need factors of 9 that add up to 6. Well, factors of 9 are 9 and 1. That doesn't add up to 6. Well, 3 and 3 do. So we got x plus 3. X plus 3 equals 8. Now, this number is always going to be the same as whatever this number is. So in this case, 6 divided by 2, 3. Okay? So that's a little shortcut. So, how did this help us? X plus 3 times x plus 3. We have two of the same numbers being multiplied to each other. So we can write it as x plus 3 squared. So we have x plus 3 squared equals 8. I want to solve for x. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Alright. Then we have one more step. I want to get rid of that 3, so we're going to do x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 8. Now this is our final answer. Alright, so we took this equation that was unfactorable and we solved it by completing the square. Alright, ladies and gents, we have another problem here. We have 2x squared minus 4x minus 6 equals 0. Now we're going to try and solve this equation. Now, if you look at the last example, our a term was 1. So to complete the square, we're going to want to make sure that always happens. So I'm going to divide everything by 2, even to both sides. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. This works out pretty nice because everything's divisible by 2. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, now we want to get rid of that negative 6, so I'm going to add it to both sides. Okay, now we can complete this square. We have our b term, which is negative 2. We're going to do negative 2 divided by 2 squared. Negative 2 divided by 2 is what? Negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. And we're going to subtract it out right away so we don't change the equation. And we're going to get this negative 1 out of there. Bring it to the other side. Okay, now this is extremely factorable. We're looking at factors of 1 that add up to negative 2. So you need to multiply to 1 and add to negative 2. And remember, this number here is the same number as this number right here. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Nice little shortcut. X minus 1 times x minus 1 is the same thing as x minus 1 squared. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So we have x minus 1 equals plus minus the square root of 7. Get rid of that 1 by adding it to both sides. And there's our answer. Alright, ladies and gents, after watching this video, you should feel comfortable doing some of these problems. So let's try to do, let's start with 14. See if we can do that one. 17. And let's try 18 and 19. Try those out, see if you can have any success, and we'll work on this more in class.